everyone. Am I on time?
Good morning, class.
Morning.
How are you today?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Sorry I'm late. It's probably Monday morning. First day of classes. Whoa. This is History 2756, Manipulation 101, or as I like to call it, what in the Caucasian? I'd like for you to tell me your name, major, where you're from, and why you decided to take this class.
Well, I'm Megan, and I'm a microbiology major from Columbus. I decided to take this class because I needed a historical study credit, and this was the only one that fit in my schedule.
All right, well, thank you for your honesty and also being brave enough to be the only person to sign up for this course. So, this course is taught like no other classes in the history department. So, I'm going to allow for you to tell me what you know about African Americans in America, and I'll tell you where you're wrong. So, go ahead.
Well, first, Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492 and found the land of America.
You're wrong. Next.
Okay. Then black people came over to escape tribal wars, and the white people helped them by making them slaves to build the greatest economy in the world.
Wrong again. Go ahead.
Then something happened that caused a civil rights movement, like John Cardinal, Jim Crow, and the black people were segregated from the white people, but it's okay because Martin Luther King made them free. And then, now, we're making America great again.
This is what happens when white people write history books.
Yes.
Oh yeah, all these black people keep getting killed by the police, but I don't really know why.
Enough.
OMG, this lady is crazy. What did I get myself into? No wonder nobody signed up for this class.
Megan, if you're going to be bold enough to sign up for this course, you're going to be bold enough to learn. So you ready?
All right.
Alrighty. So, in the beginning, God made heaven and earth.
God?
Okay. I might have went to church yesterday, so that was the wrong story. I'm sorry. In the beginning, the colonizers baptized Africans they encountered before bringing them to the New World as part of their missionary call. Get it?
Got it.
Alright. So the few Africans that came over were eventually able to become free men because the Bible says that Christians can't be enslaved for forever. So they began to be prosperous in this new world, which was definitely not what white people expected. So they got rid of their religious justification and said that black people could no longer be baptized because then they have no souls and could be slaves for forever. So then we had slaves for 400 plus years.
So that means that my ancestors weren't awesome like I thought they were.
Absolutely not.
Oh. Are you sure?
I'm actually quite positive. So you brought up the issue of police brutality, and, or as you call it, for some odd reason, black people are being killed, and you don't understand why. So African Americans have had to sneak and fight for everything that they've had. They had to sneak for an education, to form relationships, and even to be free. You see, a lot of times they would escape plantations and they would go up north to seek freedom. Well, if they were caught by slave patrols, they would enter a world of abuse. So these slave patrols, ultimately, you add a uniform to them and they're our modern day police. Make sense?
Kind of.
It'll all come together. You see, many years go by and this great man enters the office.
Oh, I know the answer to this one.
Go ahead, Megan.
Abraham Lincoln, and he freed the slaves in 1863.
Yeah, I'm not going to high-five you, but that was the right name. See, everybody thinks that Abraham Lincoln was such this great guy because he freed the slaves. But if you actually read the 13th Amendment, this is what it says. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States, or any place subject of their jurisdiction. You peep the loophole?
Yeah, but what was the purpose of it?
Now you're asking the right question. So you see, white people could no longer legally keep slaves, so they created this loophole in the 13th Amendment to do just that. Now we go into the birth of convict leasing.
Convict leasing? What's that?
Megan, you're killing me. Here, read this book. So, do you remember how the 13th Amendment says that people could be a slave to the state if they were in prison?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's exactly what Southern white folks did. Sociological studies began emerging, done by white people who had never been in neighborhoods with black people, claiming that black people had a criminal nature and had to be taught how to be good people by whites.
Okay. And
so all white people are thugs?
Oh no, it's just why do they keep getting killed by the police?
Anyway, so white people started making these laws called pig laws and vagrancy laws, which basically meant that they could imprison black people who weren't at work during work hours. And slavery was back all over again pretty much. You see, they would literally rent out these prisoners to big companies for pennies a day. And if they died, it didn't mean anything because they could simply go and pick up another black person on the street.
Wow. Okay, so then what?
And then there's Jim Crow. Listen, the Jim Crow era was actually something that you brought up, so why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
Okay, so this was when there were segregation laws in the South, and black people and white people were separate from each other. So black people couldn't use the same bathrooms or movie theaters or water fountains as white people. And they had to sit in the back of the bus, and they had to go to different schools. If the black people broke one of these laws, they went to jail, and if sometimes they got lynched by the KKK.
Okay, Megan, check you out. You trying to get invited to the cookout, aren't you?
A cookout? Ooh, I love hot dogs.
Yep, if you're thinking what I'm thinking, I got ahead of myself. Moving on. You mentioned a bus, so I'm assuming you know about Rosa Parks.
Oh, yes, ma'am. She was the first person to start the Montgomery bus boycott and ultimately started the Civil Rights Movement.
So that's actually where you're wrong. The catalyst for the Civil Rights Movement was actually Emmett Till. He was a boy from Chicago who was visiting his family down south, and he was accused of whistling at a white woman. Well, people in the community didn't like that, so they found him at night, beat him, and threw him in the river. He was the catalyst for the Civil Rights Movement.
Please tell me the men that did it went to jail.
No, because remember, white is right.
Okay, so Emmett happened, and then Rosa, and then MLK, Malcolm X, Thurgood Marshall, Morgan Freeman, but
what? Morgan Freeman? Y'all, this child just said Morgan Freeman.
Well, Morgan Freeman is old. I thought he might have been around at this time.
Thurgood Marshall, my favorite time to go to the mall. So he fought to get rid of the separate but equal policy that was in the education system because it actually wasn't equal.
Wait, but why? Why wasn't it equal before?
Read this, Megan.
This is going to be so hard. I have so much reading to do.
Hard, you say? Try being black in America, then tell me about things being hard. Now, post-civil rights era.
Oh, you forgot the Black Panther Party.
That's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. So read this and this.
Is my question finally going to get answered now?
Yes, indeed. So, in 1980s, Ronald Reagan declared drugs to be public enemy #1 and created this war on drugs. So, this resulted in the militarization of police and ultimately the creation of SWAT teams. Got it? All right. So, they waged this war on poor, mostly black neighborhoods with the lingering idea that black people were inferior and criminals in their mind. So, the police violated their 4th Amendment right by stopping and frisking them for no reason at all. And he also created these mandatory minimums that later were enforced by Clinton's 3-strike rule.
Hillary Clinton? What's a mandatory minimum? Are we talking about baseball or black people?
First of all, Bill Clinton. Second of all, a mandatory minimum is the minimum amount of years you must serve for a particular crime. In this case, it was drug crimes. And third, was that a jab at black people like this was?
Oh, no. I was just... I can't win or lose with this lady.
Save it. Get up. Anyway, opioids and marijuana dealers and users have been scrutinized by police, and and their lives have been destroyed by this inescapable incarceration instead of rehabilitation.
But like, opioids are a serious health issue that's happening right now and needs to be fixed.
You know, it's funny you say that because when black people were doing it back in the day, it was a crime. But now that these rich white kids are doing it, it's all of a sudden a health crisis. But I digress.
Oh, I see. So are black people still being imprisoned for drugs?
Actually, they're being in prison for any and everything that police can think of. As a matter of fact, they will literally arrest a black man, and if he decides to claim innocence or fight back against the arrest, he's killed and then denounced as a thug who endangered the lives of police.
Huh?
Philando Castile, Alton Sterling, Michael Brown, Stephon Clark, Eric Gardner, Sam DeGlan, the list continues. Black folks' relationships with the police have never been great, but now because of social media, light is starting to be shed on the injustice that this truly is.
Oh. So is there anything else I can read?
Glad you asked. Here you go.
Alright. Looks like I got a lot of work to do, but I think I'm starting to finally get it.
Good. I'm glad that this first class has set a great foundation for you. I'll see you Wednesday.
Alright, looking forward to it. This class might not be so bad.